Hi everyone. So today I got to interview someone very special and who had an integral role in this journey, in particular my book writing journey. Her name is Lorraine, and Lorraine is a wealth of knowledge on book writing, community writing, and we've had some very spiritual conversations. She's just all around a beautiful person who shares a lot of similar ideas and believes in empowering others to find their creative spark and go with it. So today she so kindly agreed to be here and volunteered some time to ask her some questions. So please, if you have any questions for Lorraine at the end of this, let me know or let us know, and we'll make sure to answer them next time. But I'll also leave information and links to where you can ask Lorraine herself, or perhaps take part in some of her writing communities as well. So I hope you all enjoy. Lorraine, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Yes, Lorraine Haataia. I'm the founder of Prolific Writers Life, and I run a community for writers because I believe in supporting writers. I think writers need a place where they can meet and greet and share each other's stories and support each other and encourage each other through the writing journey. Especially if someone's writing a book, it can be a fairly long journey and lots of questions along the way. And so I've created a community where people can get that support.
Wow. Thank you. And I know we resonate on a lot of topics. We talk about writing, we also talk about spirituality. How do you feel writing sparks empowerment in others?
Quite a few ways, actually. We could talk about past, present, and future if we want to bring time into this, but it is sparked by the past because we can bring things from our whole life history and save it and bring it into the present and tell others how we learned from it and help others learn from it. In our present life, we have things going on every day, and actually the present moment is when we're actually doing the writing. We can't write in the past, we can't write in the future. Well, we can't physically write in the future yet, but here we are in the present. We're doing the writing and the recording of what's on our mind. And here's the really powerful part, Lindley, is it's empowering because if you write something down, whether it happened yesterday, a year ago, 10 years ago, if you write that down today, it is available for future generations indefinitely. It really comes down to where is it saved and preserved and who can get access to it. But once something is written down, it could be there indefinitely, especially in the digital age.
And writing, if someone wasn't feeling ambitious enough to write a book, what are some other ways that kind of get that energy out there, or can also be seen as a form of empowerment?
One of the things I would say, Lindley, is there's two things. You can empower yourself by journaling, because if you look back at your journals from prior, sometimes if I'm journaling today, I might look back at where was I this time 1 year ago, 5 years ago, as I can go back and look at my journals and I can see where I was and where I am. So it can be self-empowering in the sense of seeing the journey, your own personal journey. But something that's even more powerful, I think, Lindley, is to do something as simple as writing a text message to somebody you love and that you don't even, maybe you take for granted that they know how you feel about them. But just to take a moment to write a really powerful 1, 2, 3, 5 sentences to say, hey, remember that time? You might tap into something that happened even a couple years back. Just say, was just thinking about you today. I just want to let you know how much I love you, how much impact you've had on my life. And that can be in a text message, but I would say let's amp that up one more and let's write it on a postcard, because if you put that kind of message of love and how much somebody means to you on a postcard, on a letter, in a card, if it's written down on paper, especially if it's in your own handwriting, they're going to save that probably the rest of their life. They probably will not be able to throw it away, because how many of these do we get these days? And how powerful is it to get a message when somebody is telling you, I love you because, I remember you because, you transformed my life. Remember that time.
And you took out the time to write something, even though it can be so small, to receive that in the mail. What would it take? Maybe 5-10 minutes to write something, to mail something like that. But the feeling of receiving a postcard in the mail, I would be curious as to how many people have actually had that experience in this lifetime, or if they can just imagine. What do you think prevents people from doing those kinds of things, from it being just a natural act to go and send someone a postcard or a letter, or send one of those text messages? What do you think inhibits or prevents us from just naturally, I see it as releasing energy, but just putting out that creative expression?
Yeah, well, we certainly all have our different tendencies and talents for our natural expression, whether that be through singing, writing, doing artwork. We all have different, and maybe even technical, fixing things. There's people who just like to take things apart. So we all have natural tendencies. So I wouldn't say that writing comes, quote, naturally to everybody. But what I will say, Lindley, is I think that our schools and our education system do not open up the creativity in our kids. So, and you're in Canada, I'm in the United States. I imagine our school systems are somewhat similar. And I think this is the case in many, many countries where kids are brought up to become right by answering ABCD, instead of just expressing who they are, their natural thoughts. And you can see the difference in kids that go to Montessori schools, or kids that are brought up in a more literary environment where they have a library in the house or whatever, and they've read books and they have more of that verbal expression. But really, I do think, Lindley, that, our schools are part of why we don't exercise this whole, writing to each other. And I mean, think about it. Ever in school, the only time I remember in school writing little notes to other people was maybe Valentine's Day in elementary school. Like, ever, do you ever remember a time in school? And I ask this to the audience who's listening. Do you ever remember a time in school? I mean, yeah, you have to write essays, you have to write compositions, you have to write test answers. But were you ever given an assignment to write a letter to a friend? Right?
I think I remember pen pals or something in grade 1, but
pen pals, yeah. Oh.
We should have an adult version of that too. And I completely hear what you're saying. I remember in art class being confused in that class because I didn't know what the right thing was to paint or the right thing was to create. So it's interesting to have that. And that makes me wonder too, if you have any techniques or tools to get into that writing flow. I know when I was writing my book and a member of Prolific Writers Life, having that accountability and having the group to work with really helped me get into the mood of writing and getting that going. Are there any other tips or tools or tricks that you have to kind of get into that flow state or open up that creativity?
Yeah, I think number one, you have to have a reason and a passion to get some message out there, whether that's just one letter or Maybe that's one blog post or one article or one book. So the length can definitely vary, but you have to have a why, and you have to understand why you're doing it and have a purpose and want to follow through. So, but let's assume that's established, because there are a lot of writers out there. I mean, we can see a flood of books and self-publishing on Amazon and whatnot. So let's assume that there are people out there who do want to write. It doesn't mean that it's always easy, to figure out what's next, or should I start with the outline, or should I start here or there? And what do I do when I get stuck? So that's why I formed Prolific Writers Life, because I believe the best place for writers to be is with each other. And at Prolific Writers Life, for example, we have brand new authors who've never written a book before. They have no idea even where to start. And we have authors who've published more than 20 books. So when you're in a community among writers and authors, you're going to have that conversation day after day. You get to have that conversation of, well, here's how I'm feeling today. And somebody else in there will say, I know exactly how you feel. And here's what I did. So it's like anything, imagine you're trying to grow a garden, but you've never grown tomatoes in a particular environment. I moved to Arizona and I know nothing about Arizona gardening. Where's the best place for me to go find out? Go meet with local gardeners who've been gardening in Arizona for, the past 5 years or 10 years.
It's so true. I was pointing at myself because I'd never written a book before either. And here in 4 months, I was able to get this whole thing together, because that showing up, being able to ask questions to people who had been through the process before. I think this is such a big metaphor for everything in life. If you surround yourself with people who are in alignment, or what's that saying? The 5 people closest to us represent our net worth. It's very much tied to community and who we surround ourselves with. Asked me 2 years ago if I could write a book in 4 months. No, but being surrounded with you guys, and I remember those Saturday workshops, being so excited to show up to those and just how much fun we'd have, but there being that element of productivity too. That's amazing. So was it the environment? Sorry, I'm getting a little off topic, but I'm curious, was it the environment or the community that most inspired you to create this then? Create Prolific Writers Life? Did you see that as the most contributing or most important aspect needed for writers right now?
Well, the way I look at it, Lindley, is every writing journey is different. Everybody, and let's just take for a minute, Prolific Writers Life is primarily geared toward people who do want to write a book. So anytime you have a goal, it is really good to be around other people who have that goal and be around other people who've already achieved it. So that's a primary reason I started Prolific Writers Life. Nobody should do this on their own. And also every journey is different. No 2 writers publish their book the same way, even if they went through the same publishing house, or even if they both published on Amazon, even if they're both in the same genre, it doesn't matter. Every single journey, every book journey is unique. No 2 are identical. And so as the author, you have to make decisions along the way. And it's really helpful, I believe, to be in a circle of people. And I like to use the word circle. Prolific Writers Life logo is a circle for a reason, that everybody who comes to the table has something to contribute. So even if somebody is a brand new author and they're in the room, and you've got somebody else who's written a number of books and they're in the Zoom call when we're all having a conversation, the person who is just writing their first book, they might have been reading, a book a week for the past 20 years. They've got a lot of knowledge to bring to the table. And so the reason I love the circle is that we all bring some knowledge to the table. We all know different people. Maybe somebody who's just first time publishing a book knows an artist that ends up becoming the artist who illustrates your book cover. We all have connections and we all have something to contribute. And so that's what this community is about. It's not a head of the table kind of thing. It's a circle table where we all learn from each other and ultimately choose how that path for how our book comes out.
Wow. That's so beautiful. And that was something I felt the first time I met you as well. There's a quote I posted a week or two ago that's a friend told me, a very successful friend, but she said to me one day, no one is more or less than anyone else. We're all the same. We're all the same at the end of the day. And what you were saying just reminded me of, and what I genuinely felt being surrounded with you guys is there were some very successful authors and editors in these groups, and I never felt more or less, or it's very much a collective. It was a beautiful experience, and I honestly feel blessed to have been a part of that. Do you believe, so going back to, if someone wasn't feeling like writing an entire book, but maybe wanted to explore this creative outlet, or was starting to get into journaling, was starting to get into maybe writing a postcard or a letter to a friend just to see what it feels like. Do you believe, so this creativity, maybe they're writing a poem, but do you believe the creativity of writing expands beyond oneself? Do you believe it can be, I see it as healing or maybe even therapeutic at times, but then that writing for oneself, can it also be, can it expand farther than that? What do you see as the ripple effect of writing, or is there one?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely huge, Lindley, and something that sets the written word apart. And to some extent in an audiobook form, you know, it's almost like old time radio where you hear things, and if you close your eyes, if you're listening to a story in an audiobook form, or if you're reading it in a Kindle or on paper, however you're consuming that story or this information, the words are coming into your mind and you're interpreting that, and in a way that you bring your whole past experience into it. So for example, if I say Apple, a tech person is probably going to think about Apple computer first. But if I'm talking to an apple farmer in Washington, they're going to think of a completely different apple. So even something so simple as one really basic word, now think of a whole sentence that has 7 words or 20 words. And now think about a paragraph, right? Imagine how much all those things are lighting up in your mind, all these connections. So you're telling a story and another person is interpreting it in a new way. So it's a creation, right? That creativity that is created from one person comes into another person, enters them through their ears, through their eyes, and it creates a whole new experience. It's a giant ripple effect. Yeah. It's like throwing a pebble into a pond, you know, and it's going to go out. It's going to have an effect on everything thereafter.
Wow. My brain is rewiring itself with that description. That's all. Yeah. Wow. And even just what you were saying about the postcards, seeing how big of an effect just one person can receive by the simple act of putting pen or pencil down to paper, how it can warm someone's heart. Writing is such an empowering tool. But
Lindley, what have you discovered with your book?
I can relate a lot to what you just recently said. Everybody who's given me feedback or come to me has resonated with different parts or different aspects, and that's been really beautiful to see. And yeah, the response has been, it's really nerve-wracking to put something out there like that and be vulnerable with my ideas and thoughts and not being not knowing how it's going to be received. So it's been, yeah, wildly surprising in a positive way to have that done. And you have a book coming out soon too. We were writing at the same time. Would
Yes.
you mind telling
Yes.
us a little bit about what yours?
This one is, most of my writing has been a lot of technical writing and web writing and marketing writing and so forth. But this book is actually for writers, and it's called Finish Your Book. And this is actually a mock cover, so it's always nice to have, but I do have the illustration done. I'm doing some editing. And the purpose of this book is to let people know how important it is to finish your book, not alone, but with fellow writers and authors. You don't have to do this alone. You can get so much help. It will save you so much time and energy, frustration, mistakes, all of that. It will be a much more enjoyable experience to do it in community.
Yes, and the learning that comes. Amazing. Lorraine, do you have any final words or anything you would like to share? Any messages that you feel would be valuable?
I would say for anybody out there who has ever thought about writing a book, I mean, so many people think about writing a book someday, but it doesn't have to be someday. It can start today, and you don't necessarily even have to urgently have a deadline or anything, but you can just come and join us. We do have a 2-week free trial with Prolific Writer's Life if people want to come and just practice some writing, check it out, see what it feels like. And then, yeah, just see what a difference it makes. Because one thing that you want to remember is, if it's even in your heart to write, take action on that. Don't live with regret that you didn't start sooner.
Yes, I can attest to that. It's almost like the yarn ball. If you've given it the little push to unravel, who knows what can be unraveled from that. If you give it the space. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Lorraine. I'm really excited to get this message out there. And if anyone has questions for Lorraine, I will leave links in the bio, and you will be able to find her online and find Prolific Writer's Life. But should she agree to come back again and anyone has any questions, please feel free to send them and we'll make sure they get answered next time.